And welcome back to another episode of Building the Board, presented by Bears on Tap. My name is Quentin Crisco. I'm just doing the intro here. I'm bringing you guys Steve Letizia and Tom Kavanaugh as they are going to jump in to some edge rushers in our March Madness bracket style discussion here. We got 16 edge rushers on the board. We're going to go matchup by matchup. And gentlemen, take it away.
Steve, brother, it's been a minute since we actually hopped on any sort of podcast to talk any draft prospects. I feel like we did it a lot more in the past, but I am ecstatic to be here with you. I love talking edges. You're one of my favorite people to talk edge rushers with. How you been doing, brother?
I'm good, and honestly, same. Yeah, it seems weird that this is our first podcast together this cycle, but edge is one of my favorite positions to watch. I know it's one of your favorite positions. I know we bounce a lot of ideas off each other on Twitter. But we haven't really talked about all these guys together. So I'm excited to share kind of what I know, but I'm also excited to hear what you think about a lot of these guys because I trust your opinion a lot. And I think we're going to have some good discussions, especially when we get later in this bracket on who fits the Bears best. So yeah, really excited to dive in.
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to be the key to this discussion. It's I feel like we talked about it this entire cycle. There's guys we like more than we think the Bears are going to like, and it's going to be kind of interesting to hear if you're willing to take a risk, maybe a little bit outside of Dennis Allen's mold, because that's been a really hot topic of this draft season. What guys fit Dennis Allen's mold? What guys would the Bears actually consider? There's been a ton of guys. You just kind of brought it up, Steve. I haven't really even watched because I'm really just looking with Bears lenses, and I just really don't think some of these guys will even be considered. But I know you've been grinding the tape for a while, so I'm really excited to dive into all of them.
Yeah, and anytime I watch edge rushers now, these last 2 years, it just reminds me how much I hate Dennis Allen's preferences for edge rushers because it pretty much we'll go through all these guys, but pretty much for every player, a guy who fits Dennis Allen's scheme, I'm lower on, and a guy who doesn't fit Dennis Allen's scheme, I love. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think we should dive right in. We'll start with Ruben Bane.
Before we start, actually, should we just talk for the people that don't know Dennis Allen's mold? He likes really big edge rushers with long arms and are explosive. I think those are the three probably biggest traits. And then how the ways they play football, I think, kind of get subsided when you just look at the history. So that's kind of the lenses we're going to be looking at. I mean, I don't know, maybe we will just love a guy enough to where he can kind of surpass that mold. But I think just big, long, explosive, that's what he's looking for at edge.
Yeah. I mean, Dayo Odeyingbo, not that explosive, but think kind of that prototype for what you're looking at. I mean, they kind of already kind of set the tone. And Dayo Odeyingbo, Montez Sweat is maybe a better example because he's a little bit more explosive at least. Those are the guys, the guys the Bears already have on the roster. They're looking for similar guys to that. So that's kind of what we're viewing these players through that lens.
100%. And with our first matchup, we'll talk about Ruben Bane, obviously, but I've heard Tyreek Sapp is a pretty popular name as it pertains to the Bears. I haven't watched a ton of him. I've caught him in glimpses watching Florida's defense, but do you kind of think he fits that Dennis Allen mold within I don't think he's going to go really high, but do you think he fits Dennis Allen's role in some type of rotational form?
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a day 3 guy for sure, but I think he absolutely fits what Dennis Allen is looking for. He's a little bit shorter than what Dennis Allen typically goes for. He's just over 6'2". That's what he measured it into the combine, 273. A little bit shorter arms, 32 inches. But another thing that Dennis Allen really wants out of his defensive lineman is violence, and that is what Tyreek Sapp brings to the table. Really outstanding play strength, plays with violence, reliable run defender. Plays with really good natural leverage. He is shorter and has not super long arms with only 32 inches, but because he's shorter and a little bit more stout, he maximizes every inch of his arm length. So he does play with pretty good leverage in the run game. I mean, this is a guy who can come in and be an NFL run defender right away, especially on the edge, if that's where you're going to play him. I think he could, he's a little bit of a tweener, as over 6'2", 273 pounds, 32-inch arms. That's not a prototypical, defensive end, profile. Do you want him to pack on a few pounds and move him inside to D-tackle? Do you want him to lose a few pounds and move him outside? Because, he is, he's a power player like a lot of the guys we're going to be talking about. he really does lack that explosiveness off the snap. So he's not going to be a guy who wins high side in the NFL. Just not his game. He's going to have to, run through guys. Not very bendy at all. Pass rush plan is still developing. All that stuff. But he does bring a lot to the table. I think Dennis Allen would like. I think, kind of, it's not the same size, but he's kind of in that Dio Odiengbo lens, like a guy who can play on the outside on early downs. You can move him inside, rush the passer on later downs as well. But the thing about that, I know we're going to say that a lot because that's something that gets said on Twitter a lot. And, it's, guy plays outside on rundowns and plays inside on pass downs. But John Leonard actually had a great tweet the other day. I retweeted is in the NFL in 2026, every down is a rundown and a pass down, and you have to be able to do both. I'm not so sure he can necessarily be a great pass rusher at the NFL level, but he could definitely stop the run. So this is at least, we're talking about a day 3 guy. You're at least getting a rotational defensive end. So I do think he fits exactly kind of what the Bears do. Another thing about him is he's very similar in size to Kentavious Street, who the Bears just signed, and also, Street played with Dennis Allen back in New Orleans, and the 1 year he played with him, he actually had his best year. So, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know what his contract looks like, but I'm pretty sure you could probably release him and without not much dead cap. So this could be kind of the replacement for him if they decide to go with him on day 3. But definitely fits with what Dennis Allen wants.
Yeah, that's those are good points, and I feel like that kind of mantra of the guys who the early down guys who play on the edge. I just feel like that's usually and I'm not saying you're saying it's a good trait, but I feel like it's such an overrated trait because of what you just brought up in that tweet. When they signed James Lynch, I was like, find someone who loves you as much as Dennis Allen loves the jumbo size DNs and kicking them inside. Find you someone who loves that idea so much. I've never seen someone get burned so much and continually to go down that well. And for those reasons, Steve, for everything you just described him, I would not be surprised if the Bears are higher on him than some teams across the league. Do you want to save Bane? I'm assuming we're picking Bane to go next here. Do you want to save him the in-depth analysis for when he moves on?
Well, the thing about that, though, is if we're talking about Bears fits, I do think we have to kind of keep it in mind, who's going to be available for the Bears at pick 25. And Ruben Bane, he's not, he could fall a little bit because of his arm length, but he's not falling to 25. If the Bears wanted him, they'd have to trade up for him. And if he does, if he falls outside the top 10, maybe you get to 12, 13, 14, maybe you could consider it. But I also, as much as I love Ruben Bane, I think he's a great player, I'd also struggle with trading up probably a future first round pick to get a guy who has historically short arms. I love the player, but having that big of an investment in such an extreme outlier gives me some pause. I don't know.
I hear you there. And I was literally going to ask you, if we did move him on, what would you trade up? If he did fall past, I think 10 would be okay. Now I feel like you're seriously considering trying to move up depending on what it costs you. And I'm sure it would cost you a first round pick. I think we've seen teams kind of in the same range as the Bears, the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Texans when they traded up for Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. I feel like those are pretty comparable trades if that's what you wanted to do. I don't know if I'd be on board with that either, but I do really like Ruben Bane. I think he would be exactly what the Bears need. But there are definitely concerning elements that, you are an outlier with your arm length, and it does show up in some regards to how he plays on tape. But I guess, then maybe if we're going to move Sapp forward because it's just more realistic on who the Bears could possibly get, where do you think Ruben Bane, I think everyone kind of knows, not his game, but how good he is. I will ask you, where would you rank him among the last couple great edge rushing prospects?
I'm trying to think of, I can't even remember who the edge rusher prospects were last year. Who were we looking at last year? We had
Abdul Carter. I'm thinking Jared
Abdul Carter.
The years before,
I'd probably, just in terms of prospects, I'd probably put him behind Abdul Carter and behind, I probably would put him above Jared Verse. I think I'd put him above Jared Verse because I was a little bit lower on Jared Verse, which, I was probably wrong on. But I have to go with how I rated him as prospects. So I think I would probably put him behind Abdul Carter, above Jared Verse. I actually had
Latu. I'm thinking of Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner. I would put him behind Carter, but I think he's above those other guys because the arm length is a big concern, but it's basically my only concern for him. Yeah, there are a couple like other things that like but like I'm not like too concerned about. It's anything that's like correctable and stuff like that. That's really like the big thing with him. But like this is I really do like have a strong feeling that like in November next year, like we're gonna be like, I can't believe we were talking about Ruben Bane like dropping in the draft. Like what? Like he was obviously a top 5 pick. This guy's special. Like I could easily see that happening as well. So yeah, I probably would put him behind Carter, but I don't think he's necessary. But I would probably put him pretty far behind Carter. I think because I just thought Carter was a special athlete and kind of had everything going for him. And I do think the arm length concerns are still a concern. I think he's going to be more. I don't want to say limited, but because I really like the player, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm bashing him a little bit too much, but I do think he's maybe just a step below that like top tier edge talent, just because of his arm length.
For sure. I think he's like pretty comparable to Latu, because with Latu, like the production was off the charts. And I think if you look at Bane, just like his entire career, he was like really productive as a freshman. I think he was injured as a sophomore. Like he was dealing with injuries. And then obviously he has the break, like the huge elite year that he had this year. I think like with Bane, you don't really question like how he plays. Like he's a psycho on the field. He's so technical as a pass rusher. I think he's like athletic enough. I don't think he's a special athlete like you just said with Carter. Like Carter, there was just like a different level of juice. And we'll talk about another guy I think kind of has that same level of juice. And then obviously the arm length. I think like he plays with really good leverage and stuff like that. Like I don't think he gets blown off the ball, or I don't think he like doesn't see blocks well. I think it's just like he can't really control blocks because he can't really, stack guys further away from him because his arms are so short to really like control and be like that impactful of a run defender. But I was just surprised by like how bendy Ruben Bane is. Like he's so good at just like ducking the shoulder, getting around tackles. It's pretty crazy how low he can get to the ground for such a squatty, thick guy. So I really liked him. But yeah, I mean, when we're talking about within Bears lenses, what it would cost, man, that would be tough to give up. At that point, like I would rather just like try to trade for a veteran and get the sure thing if I'm going to give up 2 first-round picks.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Really love the player, but like I said, the arm length is a real concern. Like you said, he's not a special athlete by any means. So I don't feel like I'm comfortable giving up multiple first-round picks and maybe even more, beyond the first-round picks for a guy with arm length concerns and is not a special athlete. I don't think he's a bad athlete, but just not a special athlete. And we're gonna be. I'm gonna be saying, I'll say it now because I'm going to say it for pretty much every prospect on here. Not every super athletic guy is an elite pass rusher, but every elite pass rusher is super athletic. So like that is very, very important. So I do think like he could, just be like a Brandon Graham type. Brandon Graham is a comparison that he gets a lot. I've heard it a lot of times. Was a great player, but like, is he like a special player? Like a Myles Garrett, type player. I don't know about that. I think he's just going to be a really good pass rusher, a really good player that you want on your team, but maybe not, super special in that regard.
100%. So do you want to move Sapp up? Because ultimately too, Steve, I don't think he's going to fall that far to where the Bears would even consider it. I still think he's in this class. I just cannot see Bane getting out of like the top 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think we move Sapp forward for that reason. And also Sapp is a really good fit as well. But I think that coupled with the Bears have no chance at Bane, I think let's go with Sapp.
And just to clarify for you guys, last few episodes we have done it. The most likely to be a Bear is kind of the way that we've done it. Cool. So if you guys can do it how you choose, but just wanted to make that clear.
Yep.
Fair enough. And I think it makes the next matchup pretty easy. I have not watched Armason Thomas's game in detail, but I will say I feel like what I've heard about him is like Oklahoma kind of did him no justice in the roles that they played him in. Like they played him inside at 5 technique. Sometimes they didn't really let him just loose and rush the passer. He's an undersized guy, 6'2", 241, supposed to be really explosive. Do you think there's any way humanly possible Dennis Allen would consider a guy like Armason Thomas?
No. The short answer, no. Long answer is I think there are other guys on this list that he would hate more. but I don't think there's any way. I mean, Armason Thomas, like you said, yeah, they play him at like 4'5" technique sometimes. Like, what do you do? It's 6'2", 241, 31-inch arms, over 31-inch arms. Like,
Oh God,
that's not really his like. But he does have an elite. I mean, when they did play outside, elite first step, like explodes off the ball. And that's important because he needs to win with that first step. Like, that's how he wins. He has like some counters, and he has a little bit of power to his game, more so than you expect a guy who's like undersized, but he really needs to win with that first step. But it is an elite trait, I would call it. And I will say, when he was playing that 5 technique, 4-eye technique, and teams ran at him, I will give him the credit that he was fighting. Like, there were times where he actually held up pretty well, but he was fighting his ass off, and he would get overwhelmed at times just because he's smaller. But he was trying. So that's why I say I think there are other guys on this list who Dennis Allen might not like as much, just because at least Armason Thomas was trying out there in run defense. He was giving it his all. But yeah, I don't think there's really any chance that he would be on the Bears' radar. I will say, though, I hope he would be, because I really like him as a pass rusher. I think he's exactly what the Bears need. They need that guy who just has an elite first step and can, win high side and get after the quarterback. But alas, I don't think that's going to be an option.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an option either. And I think the guy he's going up against is someone that Bears fans should definitely get to know. I think Gabe Jacas from Illinois, not only is he a hometown kid, I guess a local kid playing in Illinois. Ryan Poles loves those Illinois roots wherever he can get them to the Bears. But I think, like, when you're just looking at who Jacas is as a player, it's like the spitting image of what Dennis Allen wants and his defensive ends. I really like just the way he plays. I think that's like probably my best compliment of all these guys besides Bane. Maybe he's like, I think the biggest psychopath, and it's like the most physical. He's always up for the fight. Like, he really takes that one-on-one matchup to heart. Like, he's trying to ruin that guy's day for better or for worse. And I think he is athletic. Like, I don't think he's a special athlete, but I think for like a power rusher, I think he's got the juice to be better at that. With him, his stance is just horrible. Like, I think he just hurts himself so much because he's just never settled, and he's rocking, and he kind of like stalls out before the snap. So it really hurts his get off to be like a dominant speed to power rusher. And then in the run game, I like the way he stacks up blocks. I like the way when guys are pulling, he'll crash on him. He'll try to blow up the play. I just don't think he really finds the ball very well. So, I don't know how coachable this stuff is for a guy who's played 4 years, but like, I think the bones of what he is probably someone Dennis Allen is going to gravitate towards.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised you're not reading my notes that are in front of me right now, because that's exactly what I have. Like, the inconsistent get off is so like frustrating, because it's like he's just falling over himself. He doesn't know how to position his feet. He's just falling over himself, and then the ball gets snapped, and he's off balance and gets a terrible get off. But yeah, the motor and effort he plays with is really nice to see. Like, that's what you want. Like, this guy loves football. You can kind of just tell by the way he plays. I don't have to interview him to know that. Like, the guy lives and breathes football. Very physical style. Shows the ability to stack and shed. Yeah, I mean, he does. He sets a hard edge in the run game, I would say, but then he still will just let guys just run like right next to him on his outside. Like, he's in position. He just has no idea where the ball is at any given point. But I do think that is fixable and coachable. Yeah, like you said, he's a 4-year player, 4-year starter for Illinois. So you would hope that guy comes into the NFL a little bit more pro ready than he is. But I do think all those issues are coachable. You mentioned the athleticism. I do think he's a good athlete as well, and like not a special athlete. He's supposed to test tomorrow, and I'm very intrigued to see what his testing is, because that will basically not drastically change how I feel about him, but make me a lot more comfortable with the Bears taking him if he is, at least an above average athlete. He doesn't have to be like super special, but at least something that you could be like, okay, this guy has it. So I'm really interested to see what he is. But in terms of just, the bracket here, I mean, it's Gabe Jacas pretty easily on this one.
Is it Jacas? Is that how have I been mispronouncing his name?
It's Jacas.
Okay,
like,
Jacas.
There's basically like there's no J there. Jacas.
Understood. Okay. Well, I feel I did like a whole podcast on mine, like totally botching his name. So good to know now. I won't. When the Bears
everyone
draft
does
him,
that, though.
I'll have it down.
Yeah, I've been calling him Jacas for a while until I heard it on a podcast, and I was like, oh, okay. I've also been saying that wrong. So yeah.
All right. So our next matchup here is, oh wow, this is another one that I think is going to be pretty. And I just started watching Cashius Howell today, and Derrick Moore is a guy I think Bears Twitter has been coming around, and I've seen some OG Bears Twitter guys really be fans of him. Steve, you talked about Dennis Allen hating guys more than Armason Thomas. Do you think Cashius Howell is one of them?
I do. That was basically the guy I had in mind when I said you hate Armason Thomas is Cashius Howell. But I love Cashius Howell. I hope they draft him. I mean, I got 6'2.5", 253 pounds, which I was shocked when I looked that up the other day. And I was like, he really weighed in at 253 pounds. Like, I didn't think he was light, but like 10 pounds heavier than like Armason Thomas. But then you have the 30.25-inch arm length. Like that's not a Dennis Allen thing at all. But the reason I don't think Dennis Allen will like him is whenever I was saying Armason Thomas was trying in the run game, I don't think Cashius Howell tries in the run game at all. Like, he has no interest in stopping the run because he's like, yeah, I'm just going to let you run right by me, whatever. I'll sack you 3 straight plays once you get in a passing situation. Like that's kind of the player he is. I mean, this guy has rare flexibility as an edge rusher. Like, when you talk about bend, and if you're like new to scouting or, you know, not very familiar with the NFL and you hear people saying bend, just go watch Cashius Howell. Like, that's what bend looks like. He can turn the corner, he can flatten, win high side, all that stuff, carries the speed through the turn. I wouldn't say he has like an amazing first step, but he has, you know, it can be like inconsistent at time, but he really wins with his like second and third step, is really where he kind of shines there. So, but yeah, I think the lack of arm length and the lack of run defense trying effort at all, I don't think the Bears would really be interested in him.
He has his arm length per mock draftables in the 0th percentile. It's the smallest arm length of any edge rusher since 2000, and his wingspan's in the 1st percentile. So, I mean, like, we talked about Ruben Bane. Like, this is like crazy. This is the lowest like ever, basically, since this has been recorded. And I just can't see it. I tweeted out a clip from him today where it was showing off exactly what you just pointed to, the rare flexibility. Like, whoa, this guy can ghost move with the best of them. It's just, that's not what Dennis Allen wants, unfortunately. And where Cashius Howell is supposed to go, especially, like, I don't think, Dennis Allen would make that consideration. The Bears would make that consideration. So I don't really see that being a thing, even though I do like his game from what I've seen. What about Derrick Moore? I like Derrick Moore.
Derrick Moore denied Dennis-Sutton.
Yeah, with all these big edge rushers, I feel like do you want to just move Derrick Moore forward and then we can talk about him in the next round?
Well, in the bracket, it's denied us Dennis-Sutton. Cashius Howell versus denied Dennis-Sutton. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Oh, my bad. I'm looking at the wrong bracket. I'm looking at the one Q sent in earlier because I'm split screen.
I'm looking at the one on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. No. Let's definitely use that one.
Okay.
So it's Cashius Howell versus. Oh my God, this is a nightmare matchup. I'll talk about denied Dennis-Sutton really fast. I did not see it at all. I know he tested like an amazing athlete. I just think of a guy that's like, I don't know if he's like totally bought in at playing football, especially like with the way you want a guy that size to play. Not that he's soft. I just think he gets gassed really easily, and I don't think he's very good in the run game. Like, tight ends give him trouble. He has a hard time getting off blocks. He's a freaky athlete. You definitely see some explosiveness, I think, on his tape, but he's so tall and upright at 6'6". He just can't really do anything with that explosiveness because he can't corner. I don't think he rushes speed to power that well either. So I just don't really know what you do with him. Like, I think the way I graded him out is he's a day 3 player that you are just taking to try to develop the tools. And he wasn't getting that at Penn State, which we've seen a lot of great pass rushers from Penn State. I don't know if that was the problem with what went on at Penn State this year. So I don't know. I just didn't really see it at him with all. But if I had to go with one way where the Bears would be leaning, I guess it would be him because I just don't think they're going to draft Cashius Howell.
You might not call him soft. I will call him soft because I think he absolutely is soft. That was my biggest takeaway from him is like, you were 6'6", 260 pounds, and you are a non-factor in the run game. Like, and there are times like when there'll be a guard pulling across the formation, and he will just kind of like turn his back to the pulling guard. And it's like, what are you doing, man? You're huge, like, and you're supposedly super athletic. Like, use some of that athleticism. At least try to go around him if you're not going to try and take him on hard. Do you remember a few years ago, maybe even like 10 years ago now? I don't know. It's been a while, but Jordan Willis from Kansas State.
Yes,
he is Jordan Willis from Kansas State. Jordan Willis, a guy who's just same size. I think he was like 6'6", 260. A guy who was really, really stiff on tape, and then he ran like a 6'9" 3-cone, and that's what Dani Dennis-Sutton did. Like, I think Dani Dennis-Sutton is stiff as a board, and somehow ran a 6'9" 3-cone drill. I really don't understand it, and this is one of those situations where the testing just doesn't match up with the tape, and you got to trust the tape in this situation. Just to because I've been very negative about him, I do think he does have good snap timing overall. I think he does have some good burst. Offline scrimmage, which is more than I could say for some of these guys that are, his size. So that is really nice to see. So I think he has a chance just because of that. Like, it's hard to coach guys up to be more physical. But you got to hope. That's kind of the hope with him, is you can just coach him up a little bit to be more physical there. I do think he has some good rushes from the interior. So that's something that maybe you could do. I forget who the game was against. I think it might have been Michigan State, and every defensive lineman looked good against Michigan.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but
their offensive line. That's why I just don't watch that game, because I don't know. I feel like I'm not learning much.
Yeah, but he had like a spin move against a guard, and it was just really tight and really good, and he ended up with a sack. Like, it was really, really high level play. So that was really nice to see. But yeah, I mean, in the battle between Cashius Howell and Dani Dennis-Sutton, I think it is Dani Dennis-Sutton for sure.
Yeah, we can move him forward, and then he'll just be like a Cinderella story, like the 16th seed beating the 1 seed, and then he'll lose the next round. All right, let's keep rolling through this list. The next one we have is Keldrick Faulk versus Derrick Moore. This is a really interesting one, because the way I see it, Steve, is like, if you ask me, could I get Derrick Moore at pick 57 or 60 or Keldrick Faulk at 25? My answer is pretty easily Derrick Moore. I think they're similar than players that people would lead you to believe. I know Faulk is younger, but I don't know. I want to ask your opinion, I guess, just on each player individually. I mean, what did you think about Keldrick Faulk as a guy who I think will be a real potential option at 25?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he's 20 years old right now, or 21. He's super young either way. And that kind of shows up in his game. I think he's a little bit raw there, but you just can't teach a guy who, he's 6'6", 276 pounds, 34 and 3'8" arms. Like, you can't really teach that. So really good length. I think he shows good initial pad level and forward lean when he's coming off the ball, even if he is maybe a little tick slow coming off the ball, but he has, good forward lean there. I would say he's kind of, the thing with Keldrick Faulk is he's 6'6", 276 pounds, but there are just very few bull rushes and like power, plays on his tape. Like, he tries to win high side, but he just can't. Like, he doesn't have the burst. He doesn't have the athleticism, the speed to kind of get around the edge. And then he just kind of the rush stalls, and but then he has like flashed a little bit of a bull rush. So when he did it, like it sometimes worked really well. But I think that's going to be what you want to do with him. Like, you got to teach him to, because like I said, he does have good forward lean, and he does have like an accurate punch placement. Pretty accurate with his hands, but he just doesn't do it enough. So I think that it's just a coaching thing with him. You got to get him kind of in the right mindset. But he's a really good run. I mean, I think he's a really good run defender. He sets an edge. He's quick. His quickness in the run game is pretty good. But I also struggle with him because, like, he in my mind, he's too slow and not fast enough off the ball to kind of win the edge and around the edge in the NFL. But I also didn't really like his tape on the interior either. So like I see him and I'm like, well, maybe you could put 10, 15 pounds on him, but I don't know if that really solves any of his issues either. So he's just kind of a really weird evaluation. I agree with you, though. I would take Derrick Moore at 57 or 60 over Keldrick Faulk at 25 for sure.
I think that what you said about him as a power rusher was the most frustrating part of his tape. It's like, why doesn't he even try? Like, it's so weird. A guy who's that big with the arm length that he has, and I don't think he's like Shamar Stewart as an athlete. That's the thing. I don't think he's like everyone's saying he's got the most potential of any of these edge rushers. And I just don't see that level of athlete. And Stewart, I thought, had his own issues. Like I thought he had his own issues from being like a high level edge. Athletically, honestly, I thought he was kind of stiff, that it wouldn't allow him to tap into that. I think Faulk has the same problems and is not as explosive. Like I just don't think he, like you said, I think he's kind of slow off the ball. And some of that's like a technical thing and he doesn't time the snap well, but I just don't think he's necessarily that level of athlete. I think he's a good athlete for that size, but if you're just looking at edge rushers in a vacuum, I didn't see a special athlete. And then, so my whole thing with him is like, if you cannot teach him to be a better power rusher, you are drafting a good run defender in the first round. Like that's what your proposition is. Like, I don't see a world in which he is a successful version of what he tried to be in college as an edge rusher. And then, like you said, on the interior, I just thought he was bad on the interior. Like he wasn't a bad run defender, but like he tried a lot more to rush with power against guards and it just died out on him all the time. So I think he's going to have to go up against like work in space to really work that power. And that's where it's looked at as best. The fact that it's like so far away from his game through 3 years as a 20-year-old, I couldn't tell you why that's the case.
Yeah. I don't know. I really struggle with Keldrick Faulk like so much. Like there's some guys that are easy evaluations and there's some guys that like I always struggle with, and he's definitely one of them this year. Like you said, I don't think he's a good athlete for his size, but that caveat like only gets you so far. Like, and I've fallen in love with guys exactly like Keldrick Faulk in the past on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. Like, it's just like, yeah, they're athletic for their size, but at a certain point you just have to be really athletic and not just for your size. So that's where I really struggle with him. And with these guys that, we're going to be talking about a lot of these guys are kind of similar, for me, Keldrick Faulk, Derrick Moore, TJ Parker, Zion Young. We're going to talk about all of these guys. And it's just like, if you're getting a guy who's not a great pass rusher, but hey, he's really good run defender, it's like, you don't need to use pick 25 on that. You don't even need to use pick 57 on that. You can get Tyreek Sapp on day 3. You can get a couple other guys we're going to talk about on day 3. Like if that's what you're getting, like if you're just looking for a scheme fit, like don't use a premium pick on it. Like that's why I'm like, I would love if the Bears got Cashius Howell or Armason Thomas, because I think they have traits that you can't necessarily teach and that are hard to find guys with those traits. And those are the guys that you should be taking high, not guys who can stop the run.
100%. And the last thing I'll add, and I talk about this with Snyder on our podcast on Bears Blog Boys all the time. PFF is under some siege right now, given what has gone on with them. But I really do believe in their data for pass rushing. I think we've seen trends of it translating from college to the league. And a huge trend that they've found is if guys are not rushing the passer at a high level based on their data, whether that's pass rush grade, pass rush win rate, pressure percentage, all those numbers that are measured on a snap-to-snap basis, if you're not doing that at a high level in college, the odds of you doing it in the NFL are very slim. And I just think we always have to remember that. And why I think Ryan Poles has been burned in the past, drafting the traits mold over production, where really like you need both to really like hit it out of the park as a pass rusher. And I think that's what the Bears need. Like, didn't they sign Deo to be exactly what you just described, Steve? Like, it's crazy. Like Deo's making a lot of money to be exactly what you just described. And I don't think the Bears need another one of those guys. I think they need a guy who can win one-on-ones, win 2-minute drill in playoff games, who's going to close out the game for you. It ain't Keldrick Faulk. It ain't Deo, in my opinion. Maybe Keldrick Faulk can develop that guy. But again, like I just said, it's not likely that happens based on what he's done throughout his college career. So, and I get it. The Bears are in a tough spot at 25. It's hard to find those guys regardless. But I don't think they need to go that route again.
Yeah, and I think Derrick Moore has a slightly better chance of being that guy. Like, I don't necessarily think he's going to be that guy, but he has a better chance, I think. And like you said, with the production, like the PFF, pass rush win rate and all that stuff, Derrick Moore actually has a very high pass rush win rate in true pass sets and in non-true pass sets. Like, the advanced analytics are there. Now, I think some of that's a little bit inflated because he kind of beat up on Michigan State and some bad, offensive linemen. And he also rushes a lot from like a wide alignment. Which I think helps him as well. Whereas Keldrick Faulk, is mushing a lot more from like a 5 technique, 4-eye technique, a good handful of times. So I think that his pass rush run rate is a little bit inflated, but it's still, it's still up there. It's still I would still say it's much better than Keldrick Faulk. So I think he would, I think to me, I think he has a chance to to succeed in the NFL. I think he, he's a bull rush merchant a little bit, but the bull rush does work. He does generate speed to power, pretty effectively. I think he has active hands as a pass rusher. I think he's a disciplined run defender. There are some issues, because he plays a little bit high. I think he has some stiffness in his lower half that prevents him from really like playing with great leverage. But I think he has a strong enough upper body. We can kind of get away with it. He has to, improve a little bit there. But he is a little bit. I would say he's got decent explosion, but he is a tick slow off the snap. And when I say decent explosion, I mean like for his size, I think he's got decent explosion. So I would move Derrick Moore forward. I think he'd be the guy I'd rather have. Honestly, even if we're just talking about, pick 25, you have to pick between one of these two guys. I'd probably still pick Derrick Moore.
Interesting.
I don't know. It would be close, but I think Derrick Moore just has the advanced analytics is really kind of what seals it for me there. Guys who aren't good pass rushers in college don't become good pass rushers in the NFL. So
yeah, I think Derrick Moore is he gets hurt a bit because he is a bit older and he was on a snap count in Michigan. It's not like he was like a full-time player, or I guess played the degree of snaps as Faulk. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. And the last thing, I guess we'll just save it for when we talk about the next round. I don't want to give everything away about these guys. Let's keep rolling through this. The next matchup is TJ Parker versus is the guy we talked about that I have not watched much of. Steve, what did you think about Joshua Josephs?
I really like Joshua Josephs. I'm probably going to be higher on him than most people. Does he fit what Dennis Allen wants? I don't know. I'm leaning no, but he's closer than like a Cashius Howell or an Armason Thomas. So 6'3", 242 pounds. That 242 pounds, that's going to be kind of the sticking point with Dennis Allen. But he does have over 34-inch arms and 10-inch hands and an 82-inch wingspan. So this is a guy who, has really good length and good height. He's just a little bit, a little bit lighter, in the weight department. But with that frame, I think he could easily play at 250, 255. And that gets him a little bit closer, at least, to that Dennis Allen, kind of prototype. And with the long arms, that's exactly what he's looking for. But his tape is all over the place. I mean, he's another Tennessee edge rusher, so they have that stupid rotation where they take their best players off the field for like an entire drive at a time. But so it's a bit of a small sample size. I think he has like less than like 1,000 snaps in his career or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but I have it right here. Actually, 1,100 snaps in his career, which is just crazy for a guy with his talent. But rare first step explosion. That's really what I'm looking at first and foremost when scouting edge rushers, because you need to have that first step explosion. Outstanding. He's actually very similar to, I think he's, step below, but very similar to James Pierce coming out of Tennessee last year. Like really good first step, not super bendy, but long arms, can still win high side because he has that first step and he has the length. I think he plays with some violence, has a really good like push pull and snatch style moves, which just shows off that length. That length is like a real problem for offensive linemen. I do think he's actually better against the run than you would expect a guy who's 242 pounds. And that's why I'm still kind of on the fence if the Bears might be interested, because I thought he was, setting a hard edge. I thought he was holding up against double teams, against like tight ends, doubling them. So I think he does have enough there to maybe think he could be a better run defender than maybe he's shown. I like him a lot, but if we're talking, I don't know. I'm excited for you to watch him and hear what you think about him, but I think there's a chance the Bears might be interested.
Well, I think I'm already more intrigued than TJ Parker. I like elements of TJ Parker's game, but I just think that the Bears are in need of high-end traits in some regards when it comes to pass rushing. Like, I just think they're pretty slow across their defensive line. I know they kind of tried to address that with their interior defensive line, adding Neville Gallimore with it, which that's like all he does. He only has a good first step. But I feel like that's what they're missing. Even with Montez Sweat, like I don't think while he tested like a special athlete, I just like don't think that really shows up on the field in terms of really threatening tackles on their outside shoulder, or really like putting them in retreat mode to where he can win speed to power. I think Montez Sweat is just more of a complementary player. So I would like if Joshua Josephs, I don't know what we talked about this before we went on. I don't know what range of the draft he's going to go into. And if he was available in round 4 for a guy, you said he looks okay against the run. He has some of the traits that Dennis Allen wants. The arm length for sure. That's definitely what Dennis Allen wants. I know he's smaller. would this be a guy that he'd be willing to bet a little bit outside of the mold he typically likes because he offers some other traits that I think this defensive line definitely needs. And what I also don't think we're talking enough about, just like as Bears fans, is that Dennis Allen blitzed more than he had in like the last 4 seasons with the Bears. And I know a lot of that was out of necessity. They didn't feel like they could get home with 4. But don't you want to have explosive guys to line up on your defensive line, even if it's in like a sub-rushing role where these guys aren't starters, that could just be explosive. And if you're just asking them to attack gaps or stunt or whatever the case may be, I think Joshua Joseph's a way better fit at that stuff than what the Bears were doing with a lot of the blitzes they were doing last year than he would be for TJ Parker. I like elements of TJ Parker's game. I think he sets a nice foundation. I think, he plays hard against the run. I don't think he's like an amazing, imposing run defender, but he sets a hard edge. He can land a decent power move as a pass rusher every now and then. If he hits his move at the top of the arc, like I don't think he has any counter moves whatsoever. If he hits his move, he can corner. I don't think he's bendy. I think he's really stiff, but he can corner just enough to where he's pressuring the quarterback or he can sack him that way against bad tackles. I think he's just like a nice edge, low-end edge 2, high-end edge 3. I don't see anything special about his game. I don't think he adds anything to the Bears. And I know Joshua Joseph isn't Dennis Allen's mold, but I'm already more intrigued with him than I would be a guy like TJ Parker. I don't think Parker solves anything for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, Joshua Joseph would be the bigger swing. I mean, there's a world where Joshua Joseph is out of the NFL in 2 years. I think he also might have some, I read somewhere that he had some like disciplinary things too. So that's part of his evaluation. But I think he also could be, a really good pass rusher in the NFL. I don't know. Maybe not an edge 1. You're not talking about Myles Garrett here, but a really good like second pass rusher for a team. Whereas TJ Parker is more of you're swinging for a single. I think he's going to be in the NFL for 5-6 years at minimum, but I just don't think he really gives you anything that is going to really be a game changer. You kind of laid it out perfectly with him. I don't think he's an average. I think he's probably at best an average athlete. You call him. He did have a 1.61 10-yard split at the combine, which is crazy because that was faster than David Bailey and some other guys. But that just does not show up on tape. He's consistently late off the ball, off the snap. Like guys are moving way before him, so that's an issue 1. And then even when he does time the snap to count right, he doesn't really have the burst to threaten the edge. And there are times when you mentioned it with his lower body stiffness. There'll be times when he tries to corner and he just slips and falls, and it just happens way too often because he just doesn't have the flexibility to win that way. I think he does have some good power reps. I think he does convert speed to power, but he doesn't necessarily generate enough speed to convert to power. But he does kind of have some good upper body strength to overwhelm offensive tackles. Can use a long arm to get into the backfield and create some pressure there. But I just don't think he really gives you anything. More than just like you said, I think I have him kind of evaluated as a nice third rotational, pass rusher, or a guy who can, he'll play well against the run. But I also don't think he plays well against the run. But I also think there are guys on this list that are better run defenders. So if that's your calling card, like that doesn't really do much for me.
100%. He's like a 70 to 75 overall at everything. Like if you're a Madden player, like that's the kind of player he is, and that's fine. If the Dolphins were to draft him in the 2nd round, and because they need like floor players, they're building a culture. Parker's like I don't know anything about him off the field, but if he's like a leader and stuff like that, and he does play hard, if that's what they're going for, sure, like that makes sense for them. I just don't see where the Bears have too many of those guys. Like they need difference makers, right. So I don't see it for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the what is his calling card? What is the thing that he does that you'd be like, okay, it's big third down to the playoffs. Like this guy's going to do this one thing to help us. Like what is calling card? He doesn't have one. So that's where I really struggle with him.
So I'm down to move Joseph's forward. I don't know how much further he'll get, but I'm intrigued enough from what you described that I would want to take the bet on something a little different than Parker.
I think we might get everyone's yelling at me for telling me I'm wrong, but I'm fine with it if we want to go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go with it. Okay.
I'll wear that decision because I saw enough of Parker to where I'm like, I don't know what to do with him with the Bears. So I'm down. Let's roll with Joseph. All right, the next one. Oh, this is my guy. Akheem Mesidor versus LT Overton. Oh, okay, yeah. So, do you want to talk about Overton first?
Yeah, I'll talk about Overton.
Give the disclaimer that Overton is viewed as a DT by some.
Yeah, so definitely viewed as a DT by some. I actually, Q's still behind the scenes. I'm the one who said, like, hey, we haven't talked about LT Overton yet. Like, let's make sure we put him in there because I think he fits what the Bears want. And then after I said that, I watched him again. And I was like, this guy's a D tackle. Like, this guy is not an edge rusher. So 6'3", 275 pounds, 33 and 33/8 inch arms, almost 11-inch hands. Ran a 4.87 with a 1.7 yard split. So like, this guy is not going to win on the edge in the NFL, I think. Man. But I think he does have intriguing traits. Yeah, like I was talking about, who was I talking about before? Keldrick Faulk. Like I don't think he really can move. I don't think he really can move inside. But LT Overton does actually have intriguing traits on the inside, I would say. So even though he's not an edge, we'll talk about him here. Outstanding play strength, thick, compact frame, power rusher, excellent run defender, sets a firm edge. I mean, this is really Diodingbo, to be honest.
Okay.
But Alabama can really move him around. They move him around a lot. Like I thought his rushes from the interior were really good. He has a really good hump move and really powerful hands that allows him to get in the backfield. Like he won a good amount on the inside, whereas like some of these other guys, don't. But yeah, he's just not an elite athlete, average get off. But he's much better. I ran his Raz as an edge and ran his Raz as a D tackle, and he was in the 8s, at D tackle. It was like an 8.2 or something like that. So not bad. Pass rush plan is still developing. Hand placement can be inconsistent. He's obviously a tweener, pad level rises at times, but I do think he has some utility as an interior rusher.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I'm just looking at his mock draftable, and like once you change to edge to DT, it's like a totally different player. I was like, because it brings him up as a DT once you type in his name, and then you're like, whoa, like his testing was this good, and then you're like, oh wait, that's why, because it's going up against his weights in the first percentile for DTs, but everything else 40-yard dash, 90th percentile, 10-yard split, 78th percentile. I also noticed he has 10 and 5/8 inch. Can this guy play tight end? He has 10 and 5/8 inch hands. That's insane for just anybody to have that large of hands. But yeah, I have not watched much at all of him. But the fact that you're comparing him to Deo, I think I'm already out. With Mesidor, Mesidor, look, he is extremely polarizing because there are just some people that are not willing to concede that he's going to be 25 as a rookie. And that, I hear you. Like, I think that's usually a pretty bad gamble, especially when guys break out at that last year when they're just playing against younger players. I think that is honestly more concerning to me than the fact that he'll be 29 or whatever when he gets a second contract. I think it's more of like you look into the production. Okay, was this real, or were you just beating up on younger guys? And with him, there's probably some truth in the middle of, okay, yeah, he probably was better because he had played so much. But this was the guy that was bouncing all over the defensive line. Like, he could not find a home throughout his career. He was obviously dealing with injuries, but they tried to make him a DT at West Virginia, and I think at some at Miami. And this year, they were finally like, no, you are an edge rusher. Lose weight, get into more of an edge rushing size. And he was arguably the most dominant pass rusher in the country. I mean, and why I'm a little bit more optimistic about him. This was not like Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson was just a better athlete and old, beating up on younger players at that time when he was coming out. And people were more sold on the potential of what he could be. With Mesidor, it is all technical. It is all the way he thinks the game and how he's able to use his hands as a pass rusher to win. He can literally win in any way. I don't think he's like a special athlete, but he's so good at deploying the right move at the right time. And even when those don't work, he's got the counters to still create chaos. He's just so hard to account for offensive linemen. I talked about, like, he's like a move. He just feels like a dog chasing cars for offensive linemen. Like, they just can't get him. Like, they just cannot catch him. He's so good at keeping his chest clean and being a hard target to get hands on. And then when you try to get your hands on him, he's swiping him down in moments' notice. And I just think that when you look at with Bears lenses and what they need, I don't know if you're taking him in the first round. I heard he could slip because of some injury problems. But this is the kind of player I think that could take this defensive line over the edge because they don't have a closer. They don't have a guy who can win one-on-ones at the level that Mesidor can. And that's why, like, if the medical's checked out in this draft class, I would be willing to take the gamble at 25 with a guy like Mesidor. I'm a huge fan, and Steve, I'd love to hear what you think about him as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If this guy was 23, he'd be a lock for the top 10. They would basically have no chance of getting him. Like, when you talk about, like, he wants everything you want as a pass rusher: explosive first step, strong power profile, violent, active hands, effective executing stunts and twists, high motor, like strong run defender. I think he can get a little bit better at run defense, but I do think that, you know, he's good there. Good contact balance and strength. Like, this guy can turn the corner, but also do it through contact. Like, other guys win with just like ghost moves and they're going to dip under, but he can turn the corner through contact, which is really nice to see. The thing about, you mentioned the age. Like, the age is, you know, the elephant in the room here. Older prospect. I don't care about his second contract. Like, you mentioned that. Like, I know a lot of people do care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about your second contract. I want to make sure I get a good football player.
Yep.
The thing about him, though, you mentioned he played defensive tackle at West Virginia. He actually played nose tackle at West Virginia in like a 3-3-5 nose tackle at 280 pounds when he was a freshman and sophomore. He transfers to Miami. They played him at D tackle. I actually went back because I have actually clipped plays from Akheem Mesidor back from the 2023 season. I have them in my Google Drive, and he was winning in 2023 too. I think this guy is being sold short for his breakout. Yes, he had a breakout year this year, but this was a good player in 2023. I think if he would have come out after that 2023 season, once people got into the film on him, I think he probably would have been somewhere in a day 2 pick. Not a first rounder, but a day 2 pick, maybe a third rounder. He went back to school. He got injured like right away and didn't have a chance to, you know, take it to the next level. But my biggest takeaway from watching this entire edge draft class is that I want the Bears to go out and get Jason Taylor as the defensive line coach.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And are professional pass rushers coming into the league. Like, both these guys not only are just gifted pass rushers, but they're smart. They know what's going on. They understand blocking schemes. They understand what the offense is trying to do. Like, Jason Taylor got these guys to the next level. And I really think, like you said, Akheem Mesidor, I know people don't like him because of the age and the injuries. I don't know what his medicals are. I'm never going to see this dude's medicals. In my mind, it's a split sprint to the podium if he's there at 25. And, you know, I'm a Twitter scout. So if my evaluation is wrong because he steps on the field and blows out his knee the first play, like, I'm okay with missing on that. But, like, from a just pure football standpoint, this guy is absolutely worth the 25th pick of the draft.
Yeah, I have a first round grade on him, like, just solely from his tape, and I try to age adjust the production a bit, and I still had a first round grade on him because I just think he's that dang good. Like you said with Jason Taylor, I heard Mesidor talk to Brett Coleman, and he was like, "What can you learn about an offensive lineman pre-snap? Like, what do you look for?" And just like him walking through his process was just like, this guy's so even if, like, you can make the excuse because he's older, he knows what to look for. I really just think it's because of Jason Taylor, because Ruben Bane does the same type of stuff, right? Like, he know, like, they're really good mirrors of each other and what they do before the snap. He said, like, yeah, before the snap, a guy splits and how they stand or their stance right before the ball snap could tell you everything. And you just see that on tape. Like, he looks like he's playing chess and he knows every single right move to make. That's what he looks like when he's playing. He kind of reminds me of Latu. Like, that's what was my comparison for him, because I thought they were very similar in terms of how they won and, like, athletically who they were. And if you could get a guy like Latu at 25, yeah, sign me up for that.
Yeah, and if we're talking about the Bears need, like, I think the Bears really need someone who can step in right away.
Yes.
Play. And this is a guy who can do that. Like, every other person we're talking about, like, any rookie who comes in, especially in a weaker draft class like this, is going to have an adjustment period. They might not make a lot of rookies, especially late first round picks, day 2 picks. They don't make an impact as rookies, especially defensive linemen. Like, Akheem Mesidor can come in and be your starting defensive end day 1. And that's really what the Bears need right now. Like, I don't care about his second contract, you know, and also, like, 29-year-olds sign second contracts all the time. So, like, you're going to get a second contract out of him too, probably most likely. So, yeah, I think he's just a perfect fit for what the Bears need. B, could very easily be on the board at 25. And yeah, that's it. I think he's clearly over Overton.
Steve, you talked about being worried about Joshua Josephs and, you know, fans getting mad at you. I think there's some ages out there that might be mad at us for putting Mesidor forward here, but let's keep rolling through the list.
Joseph. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, that will be a fun one. This one is honestly really fun because I think if Dennis Allen was the dog in the fight right here, he's picking one guy pretty clearly. But I think of all of the speed, edge, pass rush specialists, however you want to characterize that skill set, I think Malachi Lawrence is the guy the Bears fans are holding out the most hope for. Like, he's kind of big, and he has potential, I think, as a run defender, whether or not it's there right away. You feel like it might be able to grow. Steve, what did you think about? Let's start off with Malachi Lawrence first, because he's a hot name right now. What did you think about Lawrence?
Yeah, I already know I'm the high man on Malachi Lawrence, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, this is a guy I'm gonna go to bat for, specifically for the Bears. Yeah, like you said, there are issues with run defense for sure, but he fights really hard. Like, this is not a guy who shies away from contact. He's violent. He tries really hard in the run game. There are times where he is, able to stack and shed and send hard edge. It's not nearly consistent enough right now, but I think there is more you can get out of him in the run game. So that start there is kind of like your baseline. Like, that's what I wanted. That's what I want to see from any edge prospect. Like, do you have the want in the run game, and have you flashed enough potential in the run game where you're going to be able to see the field? Because there's a lot of guys who just have nothing against the run and they just never get on the field. So I think there's enough there where he can get onto the field. And then once he gets on the field, he is an explosive athlete. The first step, his testing was off the charts. You got it in front of us. So, like, look at that spider chart. Obviously, you want the hand size. The weight is a little bit down, but 6'4", 34-inch arms, 253 pounds. He could easily put on 10 pounds to kind of get better against the run, fit what Dennis Allen wants a little bit more. But I thought he had really advanced hand usage for a college pass rusher, chops, swipes, push pulls, long arms. He's not super bendy, but he's got enough bend to kind of turn the corner. He really, guys can corner with bend and athleticism. Other guys can corner with length. I think he corners more with length, but yes. I do think he's not as stiff as some of these other guys, but I don't think it's necessarily a calling card with him. But I think he flashes speed to power. I like to see him do that a little bit more, because I do think he generates tremendous speed, but he still tries to win just high side a little bit too much. So I wish he kind of had a little bit more of a bull rush, but or at least showed it off a little bit more. But this is a guy who can be an elite pass rusher at the NFL level. I said earlier, not all elite athletes are good pass rushers, but every great pass rusher is an elite athlete. And that's kind of why I'm kind of clinging to this guy, because it's like, okay, this guy almost fits what the Bears want and is an elite athlete. Like, sign me up for that all day. I draft him as high as 25. I know some people, are against that, and I totally get the reasons. But I would just be so much more excited about Malachi Lawrence than I would Zion Young, TJ Parker, Derrick Moore, or some of these other guys.
I agree with these guys in a vacuum. So, like, I don't have, and again, like, this is a class where there's not a whole lot of slam dunk picks anyway. So maybe he would be, if I just stacked up my board and really graded every single position, he would be a guy I would be like, okay, yeah, this is a guy I think is in the range for 25th best player in the draft. But I don't often look at, or I guess weigh my grades for the Bears and what they specifically need. And if you took this guy just to be a rotational pass rusher in the first round, I'd be okay with that, because again, that's what the Bears need. They need difference makers who can get after the passer. So I don't even think you need to make him a full-time player to justify that pick. I think he needs to grow into that eventually, but in year one, you don't need that to happen. And for those reasons, if that was kind of the thought process behind the pick, I'm totally okay with them taking Malachi Lawrence at 25. Do I think that's what's going to happen? I personally don't. I don't think Dennis Allen's going to concede that skill set enough to where he would because it's obviously Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson's decision, but where he would be willing to make it work at 25, especially with some of the other options. So I don't know, maybe the hype right now will die down. And if I don't know if I think he's gonna be a top 40 pick based on the testing and the production this year. And Steve, we just talk about it as a player. I think you killed it. The only thing I would add, which you kind of were referring to already, his ability to work moves at the top of the rush where he's still kind of tilting around the corner. He's able to pull guys forward and still land move. It's crazy. Again, I don't know if that's Ben necessarily, but I guess just balance. Like the fact that he's able to stay balanced and like really push off of guys is really, really impressive, and which is what I think really separates him. So yeah, I love that pass rush ability about his game. I do worry about him as an every down edge, but again, I don't think the Bears, you have Deo, you have other guys who can eat snaps, and you will live if he does give up some ground in the run game because of what he can do as a pass rusher, which is what you need anyway.
Yeah. And I hope, Ben Johnson, when he was hired, said something like the most important thing in football is the quarterback and affecting the quarterback. That's paraphrasing, but he said something along those lines. So I'm hoping that Ben Johnson just like, look, Dennis, like Malachi Lawrence affects the quarterback. Dennis, sit in the corner. We're gonna lock you in the supply cabinet and just draft this guy because he does affect the quarterback, and that's really what you need, and that's what the Bears need. And like you said, come in, don't just be a situational pass rusher. Just get after the quarterback. Don't worry about the run defense stuff. We'll get you there in next offseason. But like right now, we just need someone who's going to get after the quarterback. I think this is a little bit wishful thinking on my part, but I do think that this is a guy who could be a really good pass rusher in the NFL, and that's really what the Bears need.
Yeah, so then when you go over to Missouri to go to my school, my obviously my alma mater, I think you're getting the total opposite player with Zion Young. I think this is a guy who's a really good run defender. He's got some power in his hands. He's got some knockback power. But, I saw some of the numbers at the pro day. I think it's pretty on par with what you see on tape. He's just not a very good athlete. He's not very fluid. He's not very explosive. I think he's actually like, okay. He tries to win around the edge, and it's all right to where like it affects the quarterback sometimes. Like he can just like kind of bug him. I don't think he ever finishes enough. He really needs to like take advantage of bad tackles with his power to get home. And I think he just like never stops. Like his motor is always going to where he will like hustle his way into some sacks. And I love that about him. And I love that he brings that same mentality in the run game. To me, he's probably the best run defending edge in the class. Because he's just so nasty with setting edges, getting blockers out of the way. And I think he's really smart too, in terms of finding the ball. I love him. I wanted to love him more, but like, what do you do if you're the Bears? Like you already have this mold. Like I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I don't really know what he's adding to your arsenal as a defensive line. Even though I do think DA is going to absolutely love this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of, the thing you said about, like turning the corner with Zion Young, and it goes back to what you were talking about with Malachi Lawrence, is like the way he turns the corner. It's balance. It's not necessarily like elite bend, but it's balance. It's coordination. It's the ability to stack moves together. It's core strength, all this stuff. And I just don't think Zion Young has that same balance and coordination. I think coordination is the best way to put it. He just doesn't have the elite first step. He doesn't have he's let off snap, get off his below average. Like he just can't threaten the edge in the NFL. So he has to rely on being a power rusher, but he doesn't really generate enough speed to kind of convert that speed into power. Like you said, I think he is the best run defender kind of this class, and that's why I have him over guys like TJ Parker and Keldrick Faulk, because it's like, okay, if that's the role you're going to play, if I'm drafting a guy who's going to stop the run, this guy does it the best out of these three, and they're all have limitation as pass rushers. So this is why I have this guy, over those two guys. So I do think Dennis Allen's going to love him because you turn on the tape and you're like, wow, that guy is a defensive end. Like his size is noticeable, his frame, his length, but at the same time, we're talking about Malachi Lawrence. Like people are like, oh, is Malachi Lawrence a fit? Zion Young is definitely a fit. He's the prototype. Zion Young is 9 pounds heavier than Malachi Lawrence and has shorter arms. So it's like they're not like that
makes
much
no sense.
off. He's a little bit taller,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna get killed if we don't put Zion Young forward, but I would put Malachi Lawrence forward, to be honest.
And I hear you. And maybe we've made enough considerations like earlier on, which it stinks that we like Lawrence more. But I don't know. Zion Young too. We have to bring up is I think the testing does matter for what the Bears want, especially the explosive numbers, which he did not do well in. And I don't think anyone was expecting him to do well in. So I don't even know if I would consider Zion Young in round 1. I don't think that's where he's going to go, especially when you add the fact that he's been arrested twice in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
So I think that's definitely going to matter to the Bears. I know that they're, I think, being a little more lenient than they've been in the past with Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson on taking some more risk on guys who's had some sordid past. It sounds like Zion Young's were pretty minor. They were like DWIs, but still, I think that definitely matters when you got to make that pick with your owner, especially George, who definitely wants cleaner guys. So I don't think I think honestly, he's going to go lower than people think because the testing was bad. And for that reason, I think we're talking more maybe at 57, 60, or maybe they really like him to the point that they're trading up for him in the second round. I don't think he's going to be in consideration at 25.
I like what Howie's saying here, Malachi Lawrence, no matter what. But yeah, I think Zion Young, I think I agree with you. Zion Young, I think, is going to go a little bit lower than people think. And he's not my favorite player, but if you get Zion Young at 57, like, I could totally see that. I'm fine with that. It's a little bit higher than I would probably take him, but it's like, okay, we're getting a guy who I know is going to be a rotational edge. But this is not a very good draft class. Like, you get a guy who's going to play, 4 years for you, maybe longer if you get signed to a second contract. Like, I think that I'm fine with that at 57. But the talk at 25 is where people really lose me. Whereas Malachi Lawrence, I would easily take at 25.
Yeah, 100%. I see it the same way. So do you want to move Zion Young forward?
Yeah, I think he does fit Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen would like Zion Young more than Malachi Lawrence, so we can move him.
We'll just end it here, end this conversation here. But if I had to guess the one guy that they'd make a consideration for, in terms of a speed pass rusher, I think it would be Lawrence. Of all the guys we've talked about so far, because he, like Steve said, he could pack on weight. You can see it in his frame, he's pretty thin. For that, he's a thin 255, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But he's he has room on his frame to add more weight to where I think you can literally count on some of those areas that Dennis Allen wants in his game to grow. He's, like you said, he's got longer arms than Zion Young. So I think if they were to make any considerations for one of these speed rushers, it would be Lawrence. I wouldn't totally rule him out.
Yeah, one more thing on Lawrence, just real quick. John Ledyard, who's one of the best edge guys on Twitter or in the industry, I listened to him a lot, but he interviewed Malachi Lawrence at the Combine, I believe, and Malachi Lawrence said he played at 260 was his playing weight. So that is, when then you got a guy who's 6'4", 260 with 34-inch arms, that does fit what the Bears want. I think with what it doesn't fit is the run defense. The run defense isn't all the way there yet.
Yep. And it could get better. I think that's one area of the game that I would bet on run defense getting a lot better than pass rushing. And we've seen Lawrence has the pass rushing down. So, all right, last matchup here, and then we can really start working our way to the top. Let's go on to the next one. That is, I can't even see right now. My eyesight is terrible. David Bailey versus
Anthony Lucas.
So Anthony Lucas is a guy I know you and Q were talking about recently, and I feel like he's another guy that definitely fits what Dennis Allen wants. So, Steve, what did you think about Lucas?
Yeah, I really like Anthony Lucas for a day 3 pick because I think that's where he's going to end up going. Probably that 4th round, just outside the top 100. I think is kind of where he's going to go. But the reason I like him is because he is very similar, I would say, to Zion Young, Derrick Moore, TJ Parker. Keldrick Faulk, even he's 6. I don't have his measurements for me, but I believe he's around 6'5", 275 pounds, 34-inch arms. He had an 84-inch wingspan or something like that.
Ooh,
it was crazy. Yeah, and he uses that length extremely well. That length is a problem for offensive linemen, especially in the run game. This guy, sets a hard edge. He has good hand placement. He's very stout. He can hold up against double teams. This guy can really be a really good run defender in the NFL. The thing about him is his pass rush is just crazy all over the place. He actually didn't really have a lot of true pass set rushes. It was really interesting. I looked up, he had about 80 rushes and maybe even less. It was 60 rushes in a true pass set. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was way lower than any of these other guys. And I think that did lead to a drop in production. He only had 3 sacks in his entire career, and they all came this year. Yeah, so very unproductive pass rusher. He's all over the place. He doesn't really know what he's doing as a pass rusher, but he is a former 5-star recruit. He's clearly, pretty athletic, at least an above average athlete, if not a special athlete. Former 5-star recruit. I think there's a lot more in there as a pass rusher than he's shown. now maybe he never gets there, but you're at least I think he could, be a really good run defender, from day one. So like in my mind, like I'd much rather have him at 129, let's say, than Keldrick Faulk, Zion Young, any of those guys at 25. It's really, not even close if we're taking in where they're getting drafted into play.
Where did he? I'm trying to look up if he tested or not at his pro day, or I don't know.
Is his arm length really 52 percentile? That doesn't make any sense.
It's
his wingspan is crazy though.
Okay, gotcha.
Because his wingspan was like 84 inches or something like that.
Jeez. Yeah. I see 7 foot wingspan. So geez. That was on AI on Google said that. But the thing with a guy like Lucas is like if Dennis Allen is so sold on a certain traits, like why not just take you don't have to pay a premium for that because you should be paying a premium for the guys that are proven or are offering like an elite skill set. And like I definitely think there's perks about being big and being able to defend the run at a really high level, but like that's not where like the defensive meta is valuing really highly. So why not treat it like this guy's going to play a role for us and it's not going to be something the league values really high like the rest of the league. So let's just take it on day 3. Like I don't understand why you need to push that all the way at the top of the board, which is what I basically thought they did with Dale. It wasn't a crazy contract, but it's like you did not need – you could have just paid Joe Tryon-Shoyinka 1 year veterans minimum, whatever he got, to do the same thing you're asking for Dale. And I what you're describing Lucas as, I'm like, okay, just take him if that's what you want. Just take him on day 3, and you're probably going to get a very similar player, like you just said, to Zion Young, who's going to go a lot higher, or at least we think he's going to go a lot higher. That's why I just never understand about being so sold on this mold that you're going to overvalue it more than everyone else. This is not a good way to use your resources.
Yeah, and Dennis Allen in New Orleans had Carl Granderson as an undrafted free agent, and he started for him for like 6 years. Like that's perfect. Like that's a guy you can get as an undrafted free agent, or maybe even if you use a 4th round pick on him, like that's fine. Get those guys if your scheme fits and get them in the board. They're going to play a role for you, and he did that in New Orleans. I mean, and then he tried to draft like a Marcus Davenport, and that failed. He drafted him in the 1st round, and that failed. So like you don't need. Yeah, basically what I'm saying is you don't need to spend high draft picks or big money on these guys to run your scheme. Like draft Anthony Lucas on day 3, and you'll be fine.
So for that reason, I think we have to push Lucas up because first of all, I don't think David Bailey's touching anywhere where the Bears could actually get him. And then Bailey's just not a Bears fit. I like Bailey as a player a lot. I think he's like what people thought James Pierce was because I think he can actually corner way more than Pierce. He's that guy with that elite first step. And I actually think he's got some nice moves at the top of his rush too that I really like, that he honestly aids some of the lack of flexibility he has with just being good with his hands. I really like David Bailey as a player, and I really think he's going to be impactful for some other team. I don't think the Bears are going to be interested in him but on player profile, and then I don't think they're going to be able in a range, even if they were, to take him.
Yeah, I mean, David Bailey has a chance to be a really good player. Like you said, the get off the first step is crazy. But yeah, the Bears don't really have a chance to get him. And then in that Texas Tech defense, like I just thought he fit like perfectly there because I mean, Q's beyond the scenes. He'll be able to say better than anyone, the Texas Tech fan here. But like, I feel like all their defensive linemen were just able to like just pin their ear back and just like attack. And like I think honestly, like not to get into like a different position, but part of the reason they were able to do that is because they had Jacob Rodriguez behind him, and they were just like, well, if I screw up, Jacob's gonna clean up, no problem. So, but yeah, and like my little bit of a hot take is I'm not putting Joshua Josephs in the David Bailey category. He's a clear step below that. But if you put Joshua Josephs on Texas Tech, like replace Romello Height with Joshua Josephs, we'd be talking about Joshua Josephs as a 1st round pick because I think he would have played more snaps, he would have been more productive, and he would have fit that role really well. But David Bailey, a very, very good player. Bears don't have a chance to get him, so I would put Lucas forward just mostly for the availability reason.
That's totally fair, and that's kind of where my head was as well. All right, let's move to the next list here. So should we work our way back to the top? Tyreek Sapp and Gabe Jacas. Sorry, I almost did it again.
It's a tough one. Yeah,
I think
really well.
Akheem is one of my favorite values of the where the Bears could actually get him, because when you pose me with, okay, the Bears could draft a guy like Zion Young in round 1, even though we both kind of think that might not happen, or they could get a guy like Akheem in round 2. I really like how that value aligns for who Akheem is as a player, because I think he could be as good as any of these power heavy-handed rushers in this class, and that's like a fine value for him, and pick anywhere from 57 to 60.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Akheem is both fit really well. I like Tyreak Sapp a lot, but this has got two guys who fit what the Bears need and two guys who will be available for the Bears at varying points of the draft. So I'm going to go with just the better player, and I think Gabe Jacas is the better player.
And I feel like if you tweak parts of Akis's game, he only rushes with power. Like, he literally does nothing else. And there's limitations to that, because the best tackles will be able to take that away. But he kind of reminds me of sorry, Steve. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I cut you off. You go ahead.
He reminds me of Pernell McPhee in that regard, because that was literally like Pernell McPhee would have these certain matchups that he'd just be totally shut down, because that's all he did. He only rushed with power. But he could really beat up on certain tackles as well. And I feel like of all of these edge rushers, Akheem has the most potential to be one of those type guys.
Yeah, and with Akheem, like we talked about it, it's just his setup is like way off and needs to be kind of just like overhauled. But if you do manage to overhaul that, like, I think there are a lot of traits there that you want. And he went to the Senior Bowl and he was really dominant at the Senior Bowl. And I actually thought, like, I don't know, like, it's Senior Bowl, like, you shouldn't put a ton of weight into that, but it's nice to see him going up against some of the best, offensive linemen and, the senior offensive lineman talent, and more than holding his own. One of the best performances there. And I also thought, like, I didn't think he was like super bendy, but there were some reps at the Senior Bowl, not only in the one-on-ones, but also in the team drills, where he actually was, showing off a little bit more bend than I thought. So of all like these, like, 6'3", 6'4", 260-pound edge rushers, which there are like a lot of them grouped together, he's probably my favorite.
100%. The production is not bad either. Like, it's nothing amazing, like throughout his career, but the last 2 years have been pretty solid. So again, like, he's just like good enough at everything to where I'm fascinated by, and if the athletic testing is really good, then I'm sold. This is the type of guy I want to target for what range I expect him to go. All right, let's keep rolling through the list. The next matchup is Dani Dennis-Sutton versus Derrick Moore. Steve, based on what we described, Dani Dennis-Sutton, I think this is a pretty easy Derrick Moore wins favorably in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, similar players, but yeah, I mean, Derrick Moore gives you so much more. Just from Derrick Moore, I know, likes playing the game of football, so I'll go with Derrick Moore.
That's a good place to start. And it's a bad place to start. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this, but it's a bad place to start when you question whether or not a guy wants to play football. So, I'm with you all the way. Derrick Moore for sure. This is the one we made the consideration for, Joshua Josephs, and I think both of these are kind of considerations because, Mesidor is a Dennis Allen fit in some ways. I don't think it's like the cleanest one-for-one copy paste this guy and it's exactly what Dennis Allen wants, but he's big enough with everything he's elite at as well to where I think that I don't think Dennis Allen would be like, if he was 21 and Dennis Allen had a chance to pick this guy in the top 15, I don't think he's saying, yeah, this guy doesn't fit my mold, whatever, and I'm not going to draft him. So I don't know. I'm intrigued with Joseph, what you said, but Mesidor is my guy. I feel like we got to put him forward.
Well, as much as I like Joseph's, I'm really squinting to say he's a Dennis Allen fit. So yeah, I think Mesidor is the better player as well. So Mesidor.
All right, this one I'll pose to you because you just said you don't think Lucas is that much worse than Zion Young, and it feels like Zion Young's gonna go a lot higher than Lucas.
Yeah, this one's tough because I have Zion Young ahead of Lucas in my rankings. But I do not like Zion Young at 25 at all. But like you said, he has the off-field stuff, which might not be huge, but it's still there in his profile. Mm-hmm. So I think he could easily be available at 57. And if he's there available at 57, like I said before, I'm fine with it. I think Lucas gives you a very, very similar skill set at 129, though. So I don't know. I feel like people are going to riot if we don't have Zion Young through, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I would actually, I would like Zion Young a lot at 57. If he fell to 57, I would like that. I guess I would just feel so much more relieved that that's where they got him instead of picking him at 25. Maybe that's like creeping into my mind too much, but I'm okay with moving Zion Young.
Yeah, we can move Zion Young.
Yeah,
but
I know what you're
Bears
saying
fans should get Anthony Lucas on their radar because I think he is kind of in that same mold. And if you like Zion Young, you should at least like Anthony Lucas to some extent.
For sure. Most definitely. I need to give him a watch as well. So the next, this is interesting because I have these guys right next to each other on my board. And I think I have Derrick Moore just a little higher because his production definitely outweighed Jacas's. But I am a bit nervous, and maybe I'm just looking too much into the testing, but Derrick Moore's jumps were like horrible. And I did think whenever Moore, his vertical jump, was really bad. Both of his jumps were really bad. And I feel like Moore was a little bit more dependent on the guys he was going up against. Like Ohio State, I thought like just totally shut him down. And whereas Jacas had like a lot of flashing, encouraging reps against Ohio State, it was frustrating that he couldn't make the most of some of those plays. But I didn't think that it was like a competition thing with Jacas, even though I do think Moore's production profile is a little bit more proven. I don't know. Where do you weigh in on this? I could be swayed either way.
I swear, like these two guys are like the same person. Like they're so close. Like I really need to see Jacas's testing. Like it comes out tomorrow. Like I kind of wish we did this tomorrow, just so because then my opinion on him would be like so widely different based on just like a few like points of data points there. These guys are so similar. Like you could make an argument for either one, and I couldn't argue with you. But I would personally go Jacas. But I could easily see more. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Derrick Moore. I like Derrick Moore, so this is not like a knock on him, but he really bullied bad offensive tackles. Like his best game came against Michigan State, which we talked about. Like Anthony, and when you watch Anthony Lucas, his best game also came against Michigan State. Like all these guys, best game against Michigan State. I can't remember, but I'm sure Jacas did the same thing against Michigan State. So yeah, but that is my concern with him is that I feel like he just beat up on bad tackles, and he really only has a bull rush. Like that's his move. He tries to run through your face, and it works a good amount of times. But then, when he was going against Ohio State, it didn't really work that much. Well, you're going to be going up against some pretty big and strong offensive tackles in the NFL. So I don't know if he'll be able to. Like Jacas, I think, has a little bit more pass rush arsenal, slightly, maybe just a little bit. But I would put him through.
Yeah, and I just think there's maybe a little bit more athletic potential with Jacas too. Like if he, like you said, if he tests well, I'm sold on this guy for sure. Yeah. As someone who I'm sold on him in the lenses that he will fit what the Bears want, and hopefully he will be available in the range that they could get him in at a value. So, all right, the next one. This one is easy for me. I think it's Mesidor all the way because Mesidor, of all the guys we've talked about, I think is the only one I think is worth taking at 25. Honestly, I just don't see another guy unless you're trading up and being aggressive for a guy like Bane, which we talked about is probably not very realistic. He to me would be exactly what the Bears need and has the skill set that makes a lot of money in the league. Like this is what teams want. They want the guys who can close out games. They want the 1v1 winners. They pay guys like Jalen Phillips, who have any semblance of those ability, $30 million a year for this skill set. And that's why I think I don't care about the age. I am in a winning window with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams on his rookie contract. I want a difference maker on those long and late downs.
You mentioned the money, like part of the draft is maximizing value, and maximizing value means drafting pass rushers over run defenders. And there's nothing on a football field that Zion, well, maybe not nothing, but there are very few things on a football field that Zion Young does better than Akheem Mesidor. The only thing with Mesidor is the age and the injuries, and we're never going to know what his injuries are. So from a purely football standpoint, it's Mesidor clears pretty easily.
And I think that leads us to the same result for me. I just think that, again, barring the medicals are saying this guy is going to not be able to walk in 2 years. I'm willing to take that gamble because of everything we just said. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just think he's a perfect fit for what the Bears need, which is why he would be my number one edge target. I think I've been pretty consistent with that.
This one's a lot closer, I would say.
Okay.
I think Jacas does a lot of good things and really does fit what Dennis-Sutton wants, and the violence he plays with and the strength that he plays with, I think is makes this a tougher decision, but I would still lead Mesidor. And maybe I'm not putting my Dennis Allen hat on. Maybe I'm kind of looking it through what I want out of a pass rusher. And I know this is supposed to be kind of the Bears, but I do think that Mesidor fits what the Bears want too. So from a purely football standpoint, I would say Akheem Mesidor.
And look, we've talked about this before. I think, Ali Conley's really plugged in. He knows people around the league. He definitely talks to different teams. He said he's talked to 2 different teams that have Mesidor as a medical cross-off. So I'm sure he's not going to be for every team. But if he does fall for whatever reason, which I think is very, very, very real, he could very well fall because of medicals, because of the age, all the reasons that we just talked about. Like, how are you not taking the risk on this guy in the second round? Like, what is that going to really burn you that you missed on a second round? Even if you had to trade up a bit like that, this is the type of player I want. Like, if he falls for whatever reason, you better be on the phone until the draft starts on Friday, trying to get up to get this guy. Because again, he is exactly what you need. I don't want to keep saying that, but it's true. And that would even be less risk to me to pay that kind of price. So yeah, that's kind of where I will end the Akheem Mesidor love.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mesidor will for sure be on the board at 25. Like, with his injuries and his age, like, I don't see him going super high. Like, I think he will be on the board at 25. It's just if the Bears feel comfortable with all that stuff. What you're saying is, like, so you're saying, like, you wouldn't take him at 25, or you would take him at 25, and then
I would take him at 25. But I think, again, we never know the medicals, and I'm not a doctor. I don't know what that stuff means. But I'm sure there is a chance that the doctors are kind of like what Jer'Zhan Newton. Everyone was like, "Why did he fall?"
Yeah.
They're probably just being like, "Don't take him in the first round. Like, he's not going to age well." We just saw with Max Crosby. Like, don't take that kind of gamble. But if you can get him at a lesser price, why are you not, like, actively pursuing that? Which I think is a very real possibility in this draft.
Yeah. And the other thing with Mesidor, I don't know if this means anything, and maybe it was a smoke screen, but Ryan Poles was on whose podcast was it? The draft guy, Todd McShay's podcast. It was Todd McShay's podcast. Like, it was at the combine maybe or something, and he asked him about he'd asked him just about a random question, and unprompted Ryan Poles brought up Akheem Mesidor. It was like saying, it was something about the interviews, like talking to people, and he's like, we got a chance to talk to Akheem Mesidor, and it's just like everything you want. He was saying all the nice things. I'm butchering what he actually said, but he brought up Akheem Mesidor unprompted. And like I said, maybe that's a smoke screen, maybe it is whatever, but I do think, like, he has the personality that will draw Ryan Poles to him.
I mean, hearing him talk, he was like one of the most impressive prospects I ever heard, just like his process and what he does. So I could definitely see, teams gravitating to that. But I think we did a pretty good job. I don't want to toot our own horn here, but giving at least a preview of what kind of each of these players offer, and who I think the Bears would realistically, or who we think the Bears would realistically consider. Steve, is there anywhere you think we got it wrong? Like, is there anywhere we go back?
Yeah, no, I think we did pretty good. I mean, there's definitely some, like, tough decisions here. There were some easy decisions, but yeah, I think, you could nitpick here and there, but I think at the end, like, if you look at, like, the final four, like, those guys all really fit what the Bears want to do.
I love the final four. Because this is like this is kind of where in my mind where it's narrowed down to on who will be a Bear, because I think there's a very real world where they pay Deo to be a starter, and they're still viewing him as the starter, and they don't take this position until maybe 57, 60, 89. And we talk about one of these other guys. It's not Mesidor, it's not Zion Young at 25. Like, I think that's a very real possibility. So that's why I think it's important to talk through all these guys. And yeah, I think this is pretty accurate to probably how the Bears see it as well.
Absolutely, I agree. I think we nailed it.
All right, y'all. Well, I think that's going to be it for us. I appreciate everyone for sticking around. So yeah, I think we can close it here.
All right, bear down.